you are one of the most luckiest individuals. You not only get to visit with one Barbara, you get to visit with two of them today. We are going to share with you ways to make dating after divorce easier, smarter, whatever you want to call it. After the stress of going through a divorce, it can be so incredibly difficult to think about dating again. Everyone has their own timeline for when they may want to get out there. And let me tell you, these two Barbara have it all together. They are so experienced. And I want to introduce you today to my dear friend, Barbara Peppard. She is all the way in Australia, and we are here to deliver the most value possible. I am Barbie Ladabisi, your relationship strategist. And here, you know what the most important thing for you today is that we share with you our own wisdom and knowledge. We want you to really take into heart what we're about to share with you. Just be self-reflective, and it's okay to mourn the loss of a loved one. We're in that whole process of learning what to do better in our lives and our relationships and dealing with kids. And we wanted to share a few thoughts. Barbara, what do you think, my friend?
Well, I'm so excited. Thank you, Barbie. If I could get like a little time machine and hit the button and go back to when I first got divorced, I think I would just look myself in the eye and just say to myself, just relax. Everything's going to be okay. Because I think when you first go through your divorce, and it's like the whole world is just spinning, isn't it? It's like everything turns upside down. I used to be a full-time mom. I used to be a wife. I knew where my finances were coming from. Everything was what you would kind of feel like was normal, and then everything flips upside down. For me, I wasn't seeing my kids every day. I was brokenhearted, didn't know if I was going to lose my house, keep my house. I didn't know what I was going to do. Everything was chaos. Like, what is the thing? Do you want love again? The thing, isn't it, Barbie? It's like, do we want love again, or do we just want a band-aid?
No, we all want to be loved. Love, there's nothing better than love. To carry through with what you were saying, when we're going through the muck of it, all these disappointments and just the loneliness, what ends up happening to us, we second guess ourselves in our ability to push through it. We're very resilient individuals. Believe in yourself that there is, with every heartache that you may encounter in life, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel waiting for greater opportunities for you. And I'm always in that mindset. It's very possible that today you may be watching us and thinking to yourself, yeah, it's easier said than done. I've got to go to court. I've got to show up. This is going to be an endless process going through a whole mediation. And the reality is there's always bad and darkness. There's also goodness from the wisdom that you experience. So it gives you the opportunity to really reflect and think for yourself, what is it that you want? But when do you think it's a good time to start dating?
I really wanted a partner straight away because I really struggled with having a new identity of not being a wife anymore and not being in a relationship. I really struggled with that. And thank God or the universe or whoever did not land me a good relationship, because when I look back now, I wasn't ready. I would have ended up jumping into something for all the wrong reasons. And those reasons were that I felt uncomfortable being single. I was afraid of being single, afraid of, can I do this on my own? So when you think about it, it was fear stacked upon fear. Now that I look back, I think that was not the right building block for a new relationship. And I just thank God that I took the time to really fall in love with myself again, because when we go through a marriage breakup, things get said. Your partner says stuff that really hurts. They tell you things about you, whether they're true or not, because it's only from their perspective, but it hurts. We've got a lot of rebuilding to do, don't you reckon, Barbie? Like, we've got a lot of falling back in love with ourselves again and just really starting to appreciate who we are. And you know what? I think that takes time.
I love what you're saying. You have to give yourself time, but you also have to give yourself a little space space for you. Because sometimes when you've got these kids, they want your attention. And I understand there's no magic time frame to be ready. Personally, for me, I believe that a year, it's a good tell of whether that relationship, it's going to survive, it's going to thrive. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how you define that thriving and when it's the right time to introduce someone to your family, particularly your children, since they're very sensitive spirited. But separation or divorce is so emotionally draining. Although you desire positive attention from another, which is, we just want to get out there. You can actually, it can be a conflict of your ability to heal as a human being, which you so rightfully deserve. It's necessary to the healthy ways of finding true love. I mean, obviously that's the objective, right?
I think after going through a marriage breakup, if you go straight back into the dating game again, and just the thoughts that people can swipe past you, and it's pretty hardcore. Or going out and trying somebody out and it not being the right thing, or you don't know if they're seeing multiple other people. Like, it's a time when you're kind of fragile. I would believe that feeling like you're more rock solid, like if you're still feeling like really shaky on the ground, like your ground floor is still moving parts and you're unsure and you don't feel really grounded yet. It's so important to really tap into yourself and start feeling really grounded. You risk putting yourself out there because it's pretty daunting out there, don't you reckon, Barb?
And repeat the same mistakes over and over. And it just kind of ties in nicely to what I was thinking about asking. It's like, you have to really question to yourself, you're dating again for the right reason. And if your why is to avoid pain, hurt, the anger, or loneliness, then you may want to take some time to heal before jumping back into dating. Now, if you're so solid about your why, it's because you have taken time to heal. And you're willing to feel all the emotions involved in dating again. And then it's a good sign that you're ready. Dating requires a certain amount of vulnerability, like you were saying, tolerant. And there's a lot of uncertainty, that willingness to feel a range of emotions in hopes of making a positive new connection, or relationship with whomever it is. So I think we need to really set some real hard expectations for ourselves and the person that we want to be with ultimately.
I love that you brought up the whole thing about your why. Like, I think knowing your why is so important. And it's important when you start first thinking about, why do I want or need to get into a new relationship? It's so important to not stay at the surface, but to go down many, many levels. Because when we start asking ourselves why, we always start off in our head. And then slowly, as you uncover your whys, you will end up not only in your heart, but in your soul. And then you've got a really rock solid why. So for example, when I was first divorced, why do I want a new partner? And it was like, because I hate the social stigma of being a single mom. That was why number one. Why does that matter about being a single mom? And then you dig a little bit deeper and you go, well, I don't want to be alone. Well, why is it important that you're alone? And then you start thinking, well, I've actually got my kids and I've got a huge social network and beautiful friends like Barbie here. I'm not actually alone. So why is that important? And then as you go deeper, you go, well, I know when I did this on myself, where I landed after I did 7 whys, was I realized that the reason why for me that I wanted to get into a relationship was because I really wanted to be able to role model to my kids what a great relationship looks like. That when I went down enough layers, that was why. And when I get to that why, some guy who's a bit, hot and looks great in a pair of jeans, he might not be the guy. So when you uncover your why, you start to uncover, well, who am I looking for now? What sort of a person am I looking for? Because what you might swipe and look at, like Barbie knows I'm in a relationship now, and I would not have picked this guy. But because I got to know and what he's giving me as far as being able to be loving with my kids, like he's ticking my why. But it's so important. So if you're thinking about dating, really have a think about why is that important to you, because it will really uncover some huge juice that you need when you go forth into the dating world.
You don't have to enter into a date assuming that you're going to get married. Instead, you can look at it as an experience to learn more about yourself and the new life that you're creating for yourself and your family moving forward. And it's very possible that your first relationship post-divorce might not be a rebound, but there's a lot of ifs that go along with it. The mistake I see so many people make over and over in their divorce relationship is thinking that the relationship won't have its own challenges. And let me tell you, it has a lot of challenges. Why? Because each and every one of us are born and raised in different homes, different environments. Another big mistake that I see repeatedly is comparing a new person to their exes, or thinking if they correct the thing previous spouse complained about, kind of like what you were talking about, then this person will be happy. And I would have to disagree. First relationship post-divorce can last, provided the person has learned about themselves and their part in the ending of their marriage. So it's really, really super, super important that we get to know that why, and just be honest about your past. And I think oftentimes people do this so don't be misled about yourself, your life, or your interests, specifically your kids, in an online profile or in person. Eventually the truth come out. You don't want to waste your time or your effort. More importantly, you want to find someone who shares your values. To me is paramount, the values, and who will like you for who you truly are. If you're goofy, that they'll like you and they're not going to ridicule you because you go around the house dancing or singing or, and these Barbaras that you're talking to, we love our music. We're not playing it today. You just want to be your authentic self and be embraced for the uniqueness, just what you offer that individual. Barbara, what are your thoughts?
I think that it's gorgeous. And this is so typical of me, and I just look back and I laugh at myself. But when I went through my divorce, I was sitting on the beach one day reading a book called How to Make Your Marriage Sizzle.
Did it come to fruition? Did it happen?
Oh, my niece's husband was looking at me like, I think she's finally lost her marbles, because he looked really concerned, and he was like, you do know that your marriage is broken up. And I am reading a How to Fix Your Marriage book. And I said to him, I do realize I'm not married anymore, but I want to understand what I did wrong, because I didn't know where I had gone wrong. And it was really interesting for me to take that time to start to learn about what is it that makes relationship work and what is it that makes relationships not work. And it's so important to have that basic understanding.
Well, Barbara, what I love about you is that aside from the sizzling book that you're sharing with us, I just love the fact that you've dug so deep down and you've now made it a beautiful career for yourself to go out and help others who have experienced what you had to embark and figure out for yourself, because oftentimes there's no one there to turn to that can relate with you. And I think that is so huge. And it goes back to go slow with it. Learn about yourself first and foremost. You don't have to go, as I like to say, go head first, into some intense one-on-one. Talk over the phone a lot and go on many dates that are different in types, like do different activities, have opportunities to talk and get to know each other, have opportunities to see the person in different settings, particularly, and I'm super huge about this, in their family environment, because it tells you so much. And then some dates should involve each other's friends too, not just a family, because you really get to see their circle of associations. What are your thoughts about that, Barbara?
We're the average of the 5 people we spend most of our time around. So if you think somebody's a certain way, if you see them in their like natural habitat, you're going to get a real clue. How do they talk to the people that they love the most and loves them the most? And I also think it's really important to just tap into yourself. What is it that I like? Like maybe you're kind of a bit more introverted and the thoughts of going out and dating is terrifying to you. Or maybe you're very social and it's more like a social networking and you can't stand being on your own. So the number one message I would always want to give people is that whatever's right for you is what's right for you, because there can be so much social pressure, do this or be like that, and we've really got to tap into ourselves and feel like, what is it that I need right now? What's going to serve me right now? And if something doesn't fit, like Barbie, you always talk about this, that trusting your gut, like really when something is coming up and you go, oh, don't do it. We're giving you permission right now. If something doesn't feel right, don't do it, because there is a lot of social pressure to do this, do that, or from family or from friends. People who love us can often put the most pressure on us. So always being able to check in with yourself on what feels right for me, because you're your best guide to when is the timing right for you. You'll know.
You've got to make that space again for your feelings to in part manifest and get you excited, consistent, because you get all excited right at first and then it just kind of dwindles, the excitement, and you're like, you find yourself together sitting on the sofa. Okay, what are we going to do? It's almost like it sizzles. That's why you got to get to know the person for an extended period of time and see the highs, the lows, the in-betweens, how they overcome their obstacles, whether you want them to or not. And in ways you might not expect, you will discover many things. And whether you feel guilty, nervous, or sometimes even excited, or whatever emotion dating stirs up in you, it's okay. Just follow yourself to experience that whole wide array of emotions. It's tough to get out there. And the reality is you're doing better than you think you really are. I mean, some people, you can stop and look and you're like, oh, I wouldn't want to do that. So give yourself a little break. Be patient and compassionate with yourself and with the process. It's just all beautiful. It's kind of like going back to high school, like experiencing the whole thing again. Pay attention to your intuition, which I think is your strongest asset. Remember, it is there for a reason. It's normal to have wants and needs, and you above all else deserve to be happy. And know your priorities. Get those known facts, write it out, figure out what you're looking for in a partner. What are your deal breakers? I have lots of those. And what are the values you're most looking for? Figuring out that first will save you from wasting time with someone that may end up ruining your life. You ultimately want a good match.
Yeah, you do. And you need to, I think when you take a little bit of time and, like Barbie says, allow a bit of space, you'll really connect back in with who you are again, because we do lose ourselves in a relationship because there's so much compromise and we kind of lose the essence of who we are. It's hard to go and meet somebody new when you still kind of haven't figured out, who was I again? Who am I? It's like when your kids are little and they're consuming all your time. When they get to an age when they're suddenly starting to be a bit more independent, you kind of go, oh, that's right. I remember I used to like singing. I used to like dancing. And all of a sudden the person you are comes back and starts to come back out of the woodwork again. And you remember the things that really evoked passion in you. And that can happen in a marriage as well. We get so caught up in trying to do things for our partners and trying to care for them and be everything to everybody. I know as moms, we're always trying to be everything to everybody, but we're often not everything and everybody to ourselves. And it's so nice to really connect back into who am I? What are my passions? And that might be a real telltale sign of who you might might be actually attracted to at the other end. But you got to take that time first to go, what is it I love? And maybe that's where you'll find your new partner.
Yeah, and they should be so supporting of you. Again, it goes back to you having those boundaries. You have your life. You can come together, but you also may have a family. I don't know what your specific situation may be. I wanted to take us back a little bit to online dating because it can be problematic for many of the singles out there who are just now dipping their little feet in the water to figure out, okay, what is this like? So I am not a huge fan of online dating. Yeah, I said it. And if you're going to kind of go that and roll that dice, do research into which ones offer the experience you're particularly looking for. We may have heard that some are better suited for those looking for that long-term partnership. Others are more casual, flirty type. And I'm not sure what you're specifically looking for, but be very careful and make sure you know all the scams that target online daters. I don't believe that rushing to introduce a partner should be a priority. Having children makes dating very complicated, as you know, Barbara. And like with everything else, this takes time and spending, I believe, at least 6 months getting to know someone before you introduce them is paramount. Introducing someone too soon for a child, can be very confusing. It can cause a lot of anxiety and trouble your children. I think it's just because, they think they're the center of the universe. And I get it. We also need our time, our adult time, but make sure that you know your boyfriend well and just give him the chance to prove that he's in this relationship long term before you bring him home. I am one of these that I am very protective over my environment because oftentimes if you stop and think about this, Barbara, you and I are females. We're obviously, as I understand you, we go towards the male gender and they have a sense of responsibility to their prior relationship. And you don't really know what that relationship is like. And it's really important that you also seek out to see the interaction that person may have with their children, with their spouse. That time comes, you just kind of tread lightly on with the children. Always assure them that they are first and foremost and the one thing that you love deeply, and talk to your kids about their feelings, because all children say the truth. So for the most part about the way they feel, and let them know that it's okay to be angry, nervous, sad, scared about this new relationship, and encourage them to question you and to express their concerns. That to me is very important. What would you like to share about that? I know everybody has their own perspective, but what about you, Barbara?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a tricky one because I think because I left it so long to go back into a relationship, like I know my daughter certainly felt like she had the final say. And I did have to put some boundaries around who was the parent because, like you said, I definitely want that very open communication, and I want that them to be able to say how they feel and express what it is that they want, but also to understand, like, kids can be quite selfish and they can be very me focused. And I was the exact same. I did not realize until I had my own kid that my parents actually had wants and needs. I just thought they were there to just do everything at my whim. And I believed that well into my 30s. It's only when you get your own children that you realize, they actually want and need things as well. And I think about my own parents like that now, but I didn't realize it at the time. So I know my daughter, I have to explain to her, I like to see this new man. I like him to be able to come into my life, because if she had her way, she'd have him, marching out the door, never to return. And because does take away the time, some of the time that we have. So I do this little thing called the 80-20% rule, where when I do give my children time, you don't need to give your kids 100% of your time, because we can't. We've got washing and all that chores and work and all those things. But what I do try and do, which I learned off somebody else, was that when you do give them time, you give them 100% of your attention when you're giving them that time. And that then that kind of like fills up their little need of your time. And then they're happy to go off and do their thing. Now, I know it's different with small kids. Small kids are a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, they're more demanding.
Oh, yeah. No, that just, they just rule the roost, I'm afraid. But when they get older, you can actually just give them a certain amount of time. And it just means that I don't want her to feel upset by the relationship or any of those things, but I also don't want her to be the master of my destiny, because kids can't run us either. And I know that's something that comes up for a lot of women. Somebody said to me the other day even that they said to their child, if you don't like my new boyfriend, I will break up with him. And I thought, that's giving your child too much power, in my view. And I don't necessarily believe that that's healthy for the kids either. My dad always used to say that kids need boundaries, and even as they get older, they may look big and they may be tall, they're still our kids, and they do always want to feel safe and that we're in control.
It's great to share different perspectives. We all have, depending, like you had such a long marriage, and then you waited and you self-assessed yourself and you got educated. You really went down deep in, and you know what it is that you want. You're clear on that. So everybody has their own unique experiences that make them, you determine ultimately when it's good for you. The fact of the matter is that you keep growing. Dating is going to require some effort on your part. It's not an easy thing. And even in the easiest of relationships, we know this. We know there are no relationships that are perfect. And the ones that last require work. I mean, you've seen it with your own parents. Worst case scenario, consider therapy. Ultimately, I think we need to be very cognizant of our self-awareness in dating process most. I think really ultimately. And it's important to heal yourself. You will attract the person that you ultimately want, right? So you have to really heal yourself. And I thought probably the one most important thing, you should not have bad feelings about someone. It's very important that we move forward. I believe that it's important to, and I've shared this with you previously, to live, forgive, and move forward. Or shall I say, beware of the person who blames their ex for everything. I think that speaks volumes. And that's why I said earlier, it's so important that you get to know the person, that you get to see them in the environment in their home. How do they deal with conflict? How do they communicate to their family members? The tone that they use, maybe they can be condescending, maybe they've got a hidden agenda behind. You picked up on all those things. I mean, we're all mature and aware, but I thought these are great insights that we can give our viewers, Barbara. And I hope that they can walk away with something positive that they can implement in their own lives. I mean, because I know you and I both care deeply, and this is very personal cause for us to help empower souls that are really broken.
Because we don't want to see history repeating itself. So many people rush out and they jump into things, and then they're in that same sticky situation and getting multiple relationships, and they all fall and break down. And we don't want that for you. We want you to just be so happy in yourself and powerful and strong in yourself, so that when you do decide, it's on your terms and it's for the right reasons, and you know why you're doing it, and you're going to make good choices, not choices out of fear of being alone, fear of other people thinking you're weird because you're not in a relationship. Just It'll be for the right reasons, and then you'll attract the right thing and you'll be wiser and you'll do the right by your kids as well, because we don't want our kids to be going through these multiple relationships and tearing apart, or even if you're going out and you're dating and you're trying out new people and all that, it's doing everything on your terms and for the right reasons, I think.
I love it.
And as I go, you'll hear me say, I could have been a decent match for Edison. Ideas are few.